When Matthias and his friends heard of it, they mourned deeply for them, and they said to one another, if we all do as our kindred have done, and do not fight against the Gentiles for our lives and our laws, they will soon destroy us from the earth. So on that day, they came to this decision. Let us fight against anyone who attacks us on the Sabbath, so that we may not all die as our kindred died in their secret refuges. Then they were joined by a group of Hasidians, mighty warriors of Israel, all of them devoted to the law. And all those who were fleeing from the persecutions joined them and supported them. They gathered an army and struck down sinners in their wrath and the lawless in their anger. And the survivors fled to the Gentiles for safety. Matthias and his friends went about and tore down the pagan altars. They also forcibly circumcised any uncircumcised boys who they found in the territory of Israel. They put to flight the arrogant, and the work prospered in their hands. They saved the law from the hands of the Gentiles and of the kings, and did not let the sinners triumph. Farewell of Matthias. And when the time came for Matthias to die, he said to his sons, arrogance and scorn have now grown strong. It is a time of disaster and violent wrath. Therefore, my children, be zealous for the law, and give your lives for the covenant of our ancestors. Remember the deeds that our ancestors did in their times, and you shall win great honor and an everlasting name. Was not Abraham found faithful in trial, and it was credited to him as righteousness? Joseph went in distress, kept the commandment, and he became master of Egypt. Phinehas, our ancestor, for his burning zeal, received the covenant of an everlasting priesthood. Joshua, for executing his commission, became a judge in Israel. Caleb, for bearing witness before the assembly, received an inheritance in the land. David, for his loyalty, received a heritage, a throne of eternal kingship. Elijah, for his burning zeal for the law, was taken up to heaven. Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, for their faith, were saved from the fire. Daniel, for his innocence, was delivered from the mouths of lions. And so consider this from generation to generation, that none who hope in heaven shall fail in strength. Do not fear the words of sinners, for their glory ends in corruption and worms. Today exalted, tomorrow not to be found. They have returned to dust. Their schemes have perished. Children, be courageous and strong in keeping the law, for by it you shall be honored. Here is your brother Simeon, who I know is a wise counselor. Listen to him always, and he will be a father to you. And Judas Maccabeus, a mighty warrior from his youth, shall be the leader of your army and wage the war against the nations. Gather about you all who observe the law and avenge your people. Pay back the Gentiles what they deserve and observe the precepts of the law. Then he blessed them, and he was gathered to his ancestors. He died in the year 146 and was buried in the tombs of his ancestors in Modian. And all Israel mourned him greatly. Leadership of Judas Maccabeus. Chapter 3, Maccabees. Judas in his early victories. Then his son Judas, who was called Maccabeus, took his place. All his brothers and all who had joined his father supported him, and they gladly carried on Israel's war. He spread abroad the glory of his people and put on his breastplate like a giant. He armed himself with weapons of war. He fought battles and protected the camp with his sword. In his deeds he was like a lion, like a young lion roaming or roaring for prey. He pursued the lawless, hunting them out, and those who trouble his people he destroyed by fire. The lawless were cowed by fear of him, and all evildoers were dismayed. By his hand deliverance was happily achieved, and he afflicted many kings, and he gave joy to Jacob by his deeds. And his memory is blessed forever. He went about the cities of Judah, destroying the renegades. There he turned away wrath from Israel, was renowned to the ends of the earth, and gathered together those who were perishing like slander. Then Apollonius gathered together the Gentiles along with a large army from Samaria to fight against Israel. When Judas learned of it, he went out to meet him and struck and killed him. Many fell wounded, and the rest fled. They took their spoils, and Judah took the sword of Apollonius and fought with it the rest of his life. But Sidon, commander of Syrian army, heard that Judas had mustered an assembly of faithful men ready for war. So he said, I will make a name for myself and win honor in the kingdom, and I will wage war against Judas and his followers, who have despised the king's command. And again, a large company of renegades advanced with him to help him take revenge on the Israelites. And when he reached the ascent of Beth Horon, Judas went out to meet him with a few men. But when they saw the army coming against them, they said to Judas, how can we, few as we are, fight such a strong host as this? Besides, we are weak, since we have not eaten today. But Judas said, many are easily hemmed in by a few. In the sight of heaven, there is no difference between deliverance by many or by few. For victory in war does not depend upon the size of the army, but on the strength that comes from heaven. With great presumption and lawlessness, they come against us to destroy us, and our wives and children, and to despoil us. But we are fighting for our lives and our laws, and he will crush them before us. So do not fear them. And when he finished speaking, he rushed suddenly upon Sidon and his army, who were crushed before him. And he pursued Sidon down the descent of Beth Horon into the plain. About 800 of their men fell, and the rest fled to the land of Philistines. Then Judas and his brothers began to be feared, and dread fell upon the Gentiles about them. And his fame reached the king, and the Gentiles talked about the battles of Judas, the king's strategy. And when King Antiochus heard these reports, he was filled with rage. So he ordered that all the forces of his kingdom be gathered, a very strong army. 28. He opened his treasury, gave his soldiers a year's pay, and commanded them to be prepared for anything. But then he saw that this exhausted the money in his treasury. Moreover, the tribute from the province was small because of the dissension and distress he had brought upon the land by abolishing the laws which had been in effect from of old. He feared that, as had happened once or twice, he would not have enough for his expenses and for the gifts he was accustomed to give with a lavish hand. More so than all previous kings, greatly perplexed, he decided to go to Persia and levy tribute on those provinces, and so raise a large sum of money. He left Lysias, a noble of royal descent, in charge of the king's affairs from the Euphrates River to the frontier of Egypt, and commissioned him to take care of his son Antiochus until his return. He trusted to him half of his forces and the elephants. And I just seen an elephant. I promise you, I just seen an elephant. I was wondering why I was seeing this elephant right here. It was just right there. Yes, it says the elephant. It was the elephant in the room. Let me see. And the elephants right there. And gave him instructions concerning everything he wanted done. As for the inhabitants of Judea and Jerusalem, Lysias was to send an army against them to crush and destroy the power of Israel and the remnant of Jerusalem and efface their memory from the place. He was to settle foreigners in all their territory and distribute their land by lot. The king took the remaining half of the army and set out from Antioch, his capital, in the year 147. He crossed the Euphrates River and went through the provinces beyond. Preparations for battle. So 38 and letter B. Lysias chose Bartholomew, son of Dorimes, and Nicanor, and Gorgias, powerful men among the king's friends, and with them he sent 40,000 foot soldiers and 7,000 cavalry to invade and ravage the land of Judah according to the king's orders, setting out with their whole force. They came and pitched their camp near Emmaus in a plain. When the merchant of the region heard of their prowess, they came to the camp, bringing a huge sum of silver and gold, along with fetters to buy the Israelites as slaves. A force from Edom and from Philistia joined with them. Judas and his brothers saw that evils had multiplied and that armies were encamped within their territory. They learned of the orders which the king had given to destroy and utterly wipe out the people. So they said to one another, "Let us raise our people from their ruin and fight for them and for our sanctuary." And the assembly gathered together to prepare for battle and to pray and ask for mercy and compassion. And that's what I was saying. I notice people don't have that. they're not displaying compassion. Jerusalem was uninhabited like a wilderness. Not one of her children came in or went out. The sanctuary was trampled on, and foreigners were in a citadel, and it was a habitation for Gentiles. Joy had disappeared from Jacob, and the flute of the harp were silent, just like the slanderers. And thus said, thus they assembled and went to Mizpah near Jerusalem, because formerly at Mizpah there was a place of prayer for Israel. That day they fasted and wore sackcloth. They sprinkled ashes on their heads and tore their garments. They unrolled the scroll of the law to learn about the things for which the Gentiles consulted the images of their idols. They brought with them the priestly garments, the first fruit, and the tithes. And they brought forward the Nazarites who had completed the time of their vows, and they cried aloud to heaven, "What shall we do with these? And where shall we take them? For your sanctuary has been trampled on and profaned, and your priests are in mourning and humbled. Now the Gentiles are gathered together against us to destroy us, and you know what they plot against us. How shall we be able to resist them unless you help us?" Then they blew the trumpets and cried out loudly. After this, Judah appointed officers for the people, over thousands, over hundreds, over fifties, over tens. He proclaimed that those who were building houses or were just married or were planting vineyards or those who were afraid could each return home according to the law. The army moved off and they camped to south of Emmaus. Judah said, "Arm yourself and be brave in the morning. Be ready to fight these Gentiles who have assembled against us to destroy us and our sanctuary. It is better for us to die in battle than to witness the evils befalling our nations and our sanctuary. Whatever is willed in heaven will be done." So basically they said, like, if they come in to attack because of their faith or their beliefs or whatever, the army and forces, and I guess if they want smoke, then they go get smoked. That's what it said. Army of the Gentile, the main force. I get 12, 33, 9, 12. The 12 tribes, the Nazarites. Because they worship idols or something, upside down cross. Idol worship of the pagans and the consultation of the word of God by the Jews. Mizpah, a place of prayer for Israel, a holy place of great antiquity, 8 miles north and slightly west of Jerusalem. It was here that Samuel began to judge the Israelites. So something about like idol pagans against the Nazarites. You know how they always saying us and them? I guess they are the ones who are worship idols or something. Idolatry and false gods to come up against God. They want to have a war against God. Let me save this right here. Is there any messages in here about this war or what they got going on? I don't know. So it's 38. So they could be like encouraging them to have a weapon, a gun or something. Which I don't care. Your weapons don't scare me. I'm still going to read this Bible. And I'm still going to pray. And I'm still going to speak my truth. I'm not going to fold. I'm not going to fold. It is what it is. And that what his show called? It is what it is. Yep. Anywho, a good friend will fight with you against the foe, and against your enemies he will hold up your shield. Do not forget your comrade during the battle, and do not neglect him when you distribute your spoils. Every counselor points out a way, but some counsel ways of their own. Watch out when one offers advice. Find out first of all what he wants, for he also may be thinking of himself. Why should the opportunity fall to him? He may tell you how good your way will be, and then stand by to see you impoverished. Seek no advice from your father-in-law and from one who is envious of you. Keep your intentions hidden. Seek no advice from a woman about her rival, from a coward about war, from a merchant about business, from a buyer about value, from a miser about generosity, from a cruel person about well-being, from a worthless worker about his work, from a seasonal laborer about the harvest, for an idle slave about a great task. Pay no attention to any advice they give. Instead, associate with a religious person who you know keeps the commandments, who is like-minded with yourself and will grieve for you if you fall. than to heed your own hard counsel, for there is nothing you can depend on more than the heart can reveal your situation, better than 7 sentinels on a tower. Then with all this, pray to God to make your steps firm in the true path, wisdom and temperance. A word is the source of every deed, a thought of every act. The root of all conduct is the heart. 4 branches it shoots forth, good and evil, death and life, and their absolute mistress is the tongue. One may be wise and benefit many, yet appear foolish to himself. One may be wise, but if his words are rejected, he will be deprived of all enjoyment. When one is wise to his own advantage, the fruits of knowledge are seen in his own person. When one is wise to the advantage of people, the fruits of knowledge are lasting. One wise for himself has full enjoyment, and all who see him praise him. The days of one's life are numbered, but the life of Israel days without number. One wise among the people wins a heritage of glory, and his name lives on and on. My son, while you are well, govern your appetite and see that you do not allow it what is bad for you. For not everything is good for everyone, nor is everything suited for every taste. Do not go to excess with any enjoyment, neither become a glutton for choice foods, for sickness comes with overeating, and gluttony brings on nausea. Through lack of self-control, many have died, but the abstemious one prolongs life. Okay, so chapter 38, Sirach 38. So they could be encouraging people to have weapons for, is it 12? And I don't care if you have a weapon, because I'm not going to fold on God. I promise you that. You can have all the weapons you want, because no weapons formed against me never prosper. I got a weapon too. You know what weapon I got? The Bible. Yeah, my faith. The whole armor of God. My guardian angel. They made a weapon. If it's a gun, made a gun jam. When they go to shoot, they go, made a jam. Any of their weapons that they have for me, and I have a Bible, and I have not done nothing to these people, may everything they do towards me fail. That don't serve me no good, may it fail and fall down and jam up throughout it. North, south, east, and west, in all directions. On the blood of the Paschal Lamb and on every feather that I get. Not my will, but thy will must be done. 13, eat dust. Eat, cook, barbecue, heap up dust.